What up, gangsters? Oh wait, that one's already taken. Hey everybody, just popped on to make a quick review video for a new set of weathering products from a company that was new to me. This is Vantage Modeling Solutions. Up front, no relation to them, except I bought a bunch of stuff from them. But seems like a cool company. They have a great website with a ton of tutorials, photo examples, really the best modeling website for a line of products I've seen in the industry. So go there, links in the notes. They make a few different products. One thing I'd read about a bunch online, which I didn't get because I don't have a project in the pipeline that needs it, is they do an anti-slip surface texture product for modern tanks that's gotten some great reviews. Another thing I got that I haven't gotten to play with yet but looks super exciting is they do a kind of a mud, diorama product, but it's kind of fun. They ship a resin, a texture pre-colored, and an activator, so you can kind of mix and match how much you want to make at a time. Because as you know, if you buy some of those pre-made mud solutions from various companies, stuff like this Ammo by MIG, which can be kind of nice and all, but they're basically one-time use. They dry up in the bottle pretty easily, and so I'm excited to try that out. Another product that I'd seen some good reviews of online, real cheap, so worth trying, is this modeling paper with their paper shaper. It's basically a product to make tarps, anything like a tarp, a rag, a cloth, instead of just using standard tissue paper and watered down Elmer's glue, which is what I've done, which completely works. You can make a decent tarp. At least I think it's a decent tarp. This is my Nashorn. That's just a piece of tissue paper out of like a shoebox, right? Not Kleenex, but thin tissue paper, with some watered down white glue. The problem with that is that, number one, it tears easily, right, when you're working with it, and number two, it's pretty much stuck in place. And they have a good video, it's like an 8-minute video or something, showing how they use this, and it looks like whatever kind of glue they're using here, it's pretty rapid set. It's probably acrylic of some type. It doesn't really lead this kind of paper to tearing, so it's just a little easier to work with and all. But they also show you how you can use some of their other products once you've shaped it in the position you like it, and basically coat it with an acrylic fixer. And then once it's dried, you can pull it off your model and paint it and weather it, on its own without having it on the tank kind of stuck there. Like on my Nashorn, I done the whole tank, put that tarp on the corner, and it was kind of stuck there, so I had to mask everything, airbrush it, weather it, and all without messing up what I'd already done on the tank. So I'll let you know how that works when I use it. The main product line I was interested in is their pigments. They have a huge number of pigments and really pretty selection of colors that I think look accurate and fun to work with. And so I got a handful of their pigments, and they also have a big line of pigment binders or pigment fixers. And so I got a few of those to try out. So just to compare, I had a few pigments lying around. This is actually my favorite bottle. This MIG Productions, it's rubble dust. It's this kind of light tan, gray, whitish pigment, whatever. It's in a 20 ml volume bottle. It has this pop top, which is kind of nice. I like it. It's a squat bottle. It doesn't tip over easily, which is pretty cool. And then I have a bunch of the kind of standard pigments you get nowadays. Here's Ammo by MIG, Russian Earth, nice dark rich color. Comes in a 35 ml screw top bottle. AK Interactive, hey look, it's the same bottle, right? 35 ml. This is, well, unfortunately the color's rubbed off of on it. Hershey's chocolate pigment, something like that. Looks tasty. Vallejo, almost the same bottle, not exactly. 35 ml. This is their European Earth. You got a little kind of red and orange. I actually don't like this one too much, but whatever. Those are kind of what I had in my stash, compared with the Vantage Pigment squat bottle, screw top. Also doesn't tip over easily, which is pretty cool. It's 40 ml. I'll also say, comparing the weight in my hand of the full bottles versus a couple of the full bottles of these I had lying around, they feel significantly heavier. I don't know how much of that's the bottle or the pigment, but it feels like you're getting more. They come with a nice seal on them too when they ship them to you, so there's definitely not going to be any spillage or leakage on the way to see you. So I got a bunch of their colors to play with, and if you look at their website, they have them sorted kind of by not just names of colors in a list, but they'll do different areas of the world and kind of cool tones, warm tones, things that'll mix nicely together. So like these two were two different EU light earths, but this one, as you see, is labeled cold tone, and the other one is warm tone. And you can see they just, it's a little hard on the camera, but they just have a subtly different color. It's kind of nice to be able to play with. I got over here, let's see, we got an EU brown earth, which is pretty nice. This is the cold tone version, and same thing in a warmer tone. And you can see there they're in the same range, but they're definitely different. And you can see on the bottom you can buy these both in fine or coarse grinds. I feel like we're shopping for coffee, right? But it's pretty cool. The fine one, when I took it out, it looks similar to these other brands. It's a nice fine, dust really that'll look great in scale and easily mixes into your thinner, or it mixes in water fine, whatever you want to mix it into. They explain on their website, if you buy the coarser one, it builds clumps and texture mud, which I really like to do, so I'm gonna need to get some to try. But for example, like on this little half-track guy, that's layers of various pigments placed on serially with fixers and binders and stuff to keep them in place. They sell a coarser ground version that'll make that 3D textured effect more easily. But for a lot of uses, the finer one's probably better. So I also got, what else we got? We got this nice dark earth that looks kind of like that Russian earth that I had from the MIG line. Then I got a couple of these more red earth variants, orange tone red earth number 5. This is from my current project, the T55 I'm working on. So not only do they sell these kind of pre-made pigments that they suggest to you, but they also kind of sell rich colors that you can kind of mix your own or add the mixing agent into their pre-mixed one to push the shade and tone a little bit. So for example, they sell this one. This is a mixing gray, extra bright. You can see it's very bright, kind of light, vibrant gray. You can add that to the other pigments, kind of pull them into that lighter color range. Same idea. They have this black soot one, but you can add just a pinch, darken out one of their pre-made pigments. Kind of like playing with oil paints and rendering a little, changing your colors. This is a mixing ochre. It's an intensive. You see, that's a real bright color. That you probably don't want to put that bright brown directly on your vehicle. But you can pull their pre-made mixes and pigments a little on the tonal spectrum using these. It's nice sand pigment, same idea. So that's an idea of their pigments. Then they have a bunch of different pigment fixers. They actually sell 3 versions of 3 different types, so 9 you can get. And so they have, I got the 3 kinds that are enamel based, enamel binders, but they also sell an acrylic version of the same and an alkyd version, right? And so the acrylic, they describe them on the website. So acrylics are super fast drying, which is kind of their advantage and disadvantage. Pretty neat. And they sell them in basically a standard like flat finish. This one is like a semi-gloss palette extender because it also takes a little longer to dry. This is, you can actually see it in the bottle, it's more viscous. This is a higher gloss, it's for wet effects, right? It's going to stay gloss when it dries. So they sell those 3 versions in the 3 different mediums, basically. The enamel is kind of what most of us are used to working with. If you're going to try that first. The alkyd is kind of neat. So alkyd's, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's the oil paint alternative if you go in the oil paint section of the art store and you get the quote fast drying oils, which are still way slower than our paints, right? But they dry in a day or 2 instead of a week's. They have alkyd in them. That's what they use as a fixer and binder. That's what dries. And so Vantage is selling 3 bottled versions of alkyd to use with your pigments. And the advantage for those would be they're actually, for us, slow drying. You have hours to work with your product. The disadvantage is, hey, they're slow drying, but also once they're fixed, they're set it and you're not going to remove them. Whereas this enamel stuff you can reactivate with what they suggest, universal weathering carrier, or any kind of lacquer thinner, enamel thinner will reactivate them and you can push them around, move them, swipe them on your tank. So I got their universal weathering carrier to see what that was. My guess was it was basically like a gentle odorless thinner. I don't know. It doesn't say exactly what it is, like most of our hobby products, but I'll tell you this. If you open the bottle and sniff it, it smells pretty much like this 502 odorless thinner. It's probably a similar chemical product. So just to test it out, I got out one of my paint mules. Well, really, this is like a paint elephant. It's this T35. It's a huge thing that I never quite finished, so I'm just playing with it. There are different pigments all by the different manufacturers I had. Basically made into a slurry and applied with their standard enamel binder, just to prove it works. It works. Of course, it works with all the different brands of pigments. No big deal. You can mix and match. They all pretty much look the same when applied in this manner. Nothing really impressive. And then, talking about pigments, I like pigments a lot. They're super fun to work with, right? Actually, one of the better stupid modeling magazines I've ever gotten. There's this weathering magazine that I got from HobbyWorld-USA, Matt Bowl, the best store. But anyway, if you're into pigments or you want to learn more about them, good magazine, and you go through all the different techniques you can use. You can just apply pigment straight on your model, rub them in with a brush or whatever. They'll stick a little bit depending on what finish you're putting them on, but even a stiff breeze will blow them away, so you want to fix them in place, right? And people will say, pigment, if you get a fixer like this AK Interactive Pigment Fixer, it's just enamel thinner. You just need to put a little thinner on and it'll fix it in place. Well, this isn't just thinner. That doesn't make any sense. Thinner is just going to evaporate, right? Now, that being said, you can just use basically any liquid to partially fix the pigments to the surface. Why does that work? Probably because you're just putting them in a more compact, orderly structure, and then when the liquid evaporates, they're in place a little better, and they'll stick at least through a mild breeze. Kind of like the same way if you build a sandcastle out of dry sand, it has no structure or integrity. But if you build a sandcastle out of damp sand or pour some water over it, even when the water evaporates pretty quickly on the beach, you have a compact, tight sandcastle that can at least weather a mild breeze without blowing away. So, for example, this is all the same pigment, but applied with different fixers or liquids. All the way on the left, that's just water made into a slurry with pigment applied, let dry. One of the problems with water is it has a lot of surface tension. So you can put a little drop of soap in the water, like I did in the second one, and not get as much kind of splotchiness. This three, the third, the fourth, the fifth, there we go, are the three different Vantage enamel fixers. The standard, paddle extender semi-gloss, and the high gloss. And you can see, even hours later, there is still a gloss effect there, as you would want. Over here, just to compare, this is that same AK brand pigment fixer that I had lying around, and in real life, it looks, the effect I got, basically identical to the Vantage enamel standard fixer. And then way over here, this is just some universal weather carrier, basically odorless thinner, right? Used to apply a slurry. So I applied them all, I let them dry. You see all the different effects. They all work, but you can see I just wipe my finger across the top, and the stuff that you fix with water, soapy water, or just a standard lacquer thinner doesn't have any staying power to the touch, right? It's good enough if you're going to do that last and put it on your display shelf, but if you wanted to hold up to further weathering and all, you need a fixer. And a fixer has something besides just thinner, and it has a little bit of a clear coat, varnish, paint. You could use Tamiya X22, diluted highly, I'm sure, but it's nice to use just a pre-made effective binder. Anyway, I'm quite happy with the pigments. Great selection of color. The fixers or binders, as they call them, seem to work just perfectly. The price is right. They're not terribly expensive at all. Quite competitive. Probably the best thing about this product line is their website. It is pretty incredible. If you get on there, they have really nice tutorials of how to use it, but they also have examples of basically all the different colors applied and the different techniques they would use, actually looking good on the model, unlike what I just showed you. Wet effects, dusted effects, streaking, etc. And you can see examples of all the colors in use. They basically have like little tank wheels. They put them on so you know exactly what you're getting. Just to play around briefly, I threw some on kind of the running gear over here on that back area. You can see I just threw a bunch of pigment on and applied some fixer just to get that look of kind of mud that's gotten up there and started to dry in clumps. And I applied a little bit of their gloss wet action. It's dry. It's nice and dry now, but you can see it looks like some rain or water is kind of streaked down, and there's still some watery mud on the bottom of the fender. Kind of same idea on the running gear. You know, the back one just looks like kind of standard piles of pigments that I've applied with some standard pigment fixer. Looks pretty good, like mostly dried, caked on mud. Over here, I after I did that, just added a couple drops of their gloss action. I gotta say, I like the look. It looks wet, right? It looks like we just splashed through a big puddle. Pretty cool. Anyway, seems like a cool company. They email out coupons a lot. Like I said earlier, I have no relationship with them, never met them. They're not paying me. I wish they were. Hey, I take checks, credit card, cash, and small bills, however you like it. But if you're interested, I'd check them out. Thanks for listening.